Vanakkam. Hello.
Say hello, Karthik.
Just give me a
Can you
second.
hear me?
I can, yes. Give me a second. I'll just adjust some volume on this. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Right. Okay, good.
Must be-
So do we just wait for a couple of minutes and then start?
Sure. So I was just talking about the people who had joined earlier that House Awaken Life is a
Hmm.
conscious community where we wish to create awareness about a life which is full of choices and not of chances, and how a conscious living can create magic in one's life. And that's how we have an opportunity to invite you today with us.
Great.
Uh, who always believes in living life with a lot of consciousness, a lot of thought behind it, rather than just living by chances. And I was just about to give a bit of an introduction, but I would want you to introduce yourself.
Sure.
I'm sure you would do more justice to the whole thing than I would. So it'll be nice to hear about this whole practice, Karlakattai, that we were discussing about the other day. And it's such an honor to have you with us. I was going through a lot of work that you have done, and it's such an honor to have you with us on A Week in Life today. And there are a lot of people joining in now, a lot of hearts coming in.
Great.
All
Okay.
right. Yes, over to you. Uh,
Okay. Now, no, thank you very much for having me on your live. I know you contacted me earlier and I was busy with something, but yeah, glad this could happen. It is a working day and it's a special day today in India as well, and for me, for every Indian, obviously. I didn't realize when we had agreed. We agreed on the 15th, and it didn't connect at that point. And only recently I said, "Oh, 15th. Okay, it's quite interesting that we agreed on a date. That's quite special as well. So I know some people from India. It's easier to join, but not many from here. It's a working day, but I'm glad I could join you. So thank you for having me here. So before I start, and like every interview or talk I give about Karlakattai, I do like to express my gratitude and my respect to my guru, my asan, Dr. Jodi Sendilkannan from Jodi Silambam Kshatriya Gurukulam. So what I am now, or what I do now, is all because of him, and I do like to acknowledge that wherever I speak. So yeah, starting with as an introduction, I think. What is Karlakattai practice? I think that could probably give a starting topic for us to progress further in what we're talking about, right? So Karlakattai training is an ancient practice of body conditioning. My asan calls it a warrior practice as well because the warriors used to do it a lot, but it is for everyday people, for both men and women. So it is a body conditioning practice. It has history going back to thousands and thousands of years. There's a lot of evidence that you can see. If people are after evidence and knowing, but everything in Bharat, Hindustan, and India, not it's all passed down through lineage, through things. But even if you look for evidence, if you see some of the oldest temples or some of the oldest sculptures in India, you will see people holding clubs very similar to these. They'll be carved with these. These are Karlakattais. And they have a lot of history and story behind them. That there's a you can call it uh, a legendary history, or if you want to call it a mythological history or whatever. But there is a lot of thing behind where everything started. But going straight into what the practice is all about and how it fits into what we're talking. So Karlakattai training. So traditional Karlakattai training, not anything. So what a lot of people are known or seeing these days, even if it's on social media or if they're used to watching it on films, it's just somebody taking a heavy piece of wood and swinging it around their head. And a lot of people want to try to imitate that, and that is not really Karlakattai practice. You can call it a Karlakattai because people are known to associating a wooden club shaped in this manner as a Karlakattai. That's not what it is. Like every ancient practices that we have, take it yoga, take it meditation, take it dance, music, anything that's cultural, that's a traditional art form, has a lot of different steps, a lot of different meaning behind everything that we do. The same with Karlakattai training as well. So we start off with what we call is May Padam. May is yourself or self. Padam means lesson. So it's a self lesson. That's what it means. So basically, any sort of movement that you do to understand your capacity, your limitations, and whatever your body is capable of, for you to understand that. And then further from there, we get on to Udal Kattupadam, where we condition our body based on what we understand about ourselves. And only after that, we move on to touching the Karlakattai, which is the club, as you would call it, right? And from there, all of this combined. So we do all of these in certain steps. As you would first start, you just don't pick up a piece of wood and start swinging it around your head. And all of this is done, very importantly, this is something to note, is something with a breathing technique called Kshatriya Pranayam. Shakti means energy, Riya means to gather, Pranayam means breathing. So we're gathering energy through breathing. So most of these ancient practices that we have, right, and I'll talk just for Karlakattai, I don't want to go further into other martial arts and all of that, but majority of these practices were devised for people to be able to keep themselves fit, functional, and healthy for the rest of the day and for whatever activity they're doing. It was never designed for you to do a workout and be drained out for the rest of the day. It's always something to fuel you. If you can think of a wind-up clock, or if you can think of a dynamo, these are the kind of tools and these are the kind of devices that we had. I'm talking the whole body conditioning technique, right? Not just with the Karlak. They are all designed for us to feel charged up. So, and they work in very different ways in our body, right? So if we just take, yeah.
Well, so when you went on to describe this whole martial arts or ancient martial arts of Karlakattai, what I understand understand from what you've spoken is it's more of a holistic science, because it's taking care of your body, it's taking care of your mind conditioning. So it's conditioning your body and then moves to your mind, and also involves a lot of breath, right?
Yes.
So it's like taking care of your entire existence, not just your physical body, right?
Yes. Yeah, of course. So how it works, so Karlakattai. So apart from what people would generally understand as your just musculoskeletal level, so if you take a weighted object and you work out with it, you are obviously working on your musculoskeletal level, on your joints, on your muscles, and what you think. So that is the exterior side. Internally, there's a lot going on, and if you do it with the right technique, obviously this is where I said from the right lineage, you learn from the right people, you learn. So if you grasp onto that, you tap onto that scientifically. So we can touch on that in two different ways. And easy to understand. The easiest to understand is a scientific way, right? Which is what a lot of people now, modern times, you can relate to a little bit. Because what of it, we study a lot about it, and this is what modern science is. So if relating it to modern science, so everything in our body, if you talk about emotion or our physical state, is all linked to hormones and the chemical changes and everything else that happens in your body, right? When we do any sort of physical form of exercise, and if it is done the right way, so I'm talking about Karlakattai training, when you're taught the right way, when you're doing it the right way, it helps internally balance the flow in your body. What I mean by flow is flow of air in your body, flow of blood, flow of hormones, and flow of energy. So when all of these are in the right balance, everything else, right from your emotional, mental state and your physical state, automatically improves. So that, and obviously, yes, it is a very holistic approach to body conditioning, and all of these were designed for that manner. They were meant to be holistic. They were never meant to be just focused on your physical state. The way they approached it in the past was, you look after your physical state, you set yourself in a discipline, and the discipline is obviously you have to put in, because this is what we control. This is all we have control about. Sometimes we don't have. You can't sit in a place and say I just control my emotions. It doesn't work. But you can stand and say I control my hands and legs. I can move, right? So the moment you start setting yourself in a discipline and you start moving, and this discipline, the body discipline, eventually trickles down to your mind and your internal spiritual discipline, let's call it, right? So I'll touch on to that in a bit as well when we move on to, if you want to talk about how this links with spirituality, right? So yes, it does work your entire body. I can talk by personal experience. I can talk, when I say body, not just the physical self, your whole self as a holistic approach. And also it helps people with their the most common thing right now, stress, right? The most common thing right now. It does help them combat back, so contain their stress or able to deal with it. Or if you have issues other ways, it helps you deal with, because scientifically it is chemical imbalance. The moment you start doing something, there is a change in your flow in the body. There is a change in hormones. So if you talk about happy hormones, right? If you talk about when you exercise, you have endorphins, you have dopamine, and all the other different hormones that are produced. They get back into a good balance. So you're in a good state of mind, similar to how when you eat something that you really like, right? And the feeling of love and all these hormones, they're happy hormones. At the same time, you have testosterone, good release of testosterone that helps you feel good about yourself, feel good about your body. And all of that is done in moderation, right? We don't push ourselves to breaking point. It is not an aggressive.
It's a good point that you mentioned, that everything is done in moderation. We don't really push ourselves. That's the need of the hour. Sometimes I feel, there's so many things happening in today's life due to stress and wrong kind of physical conditioning. This is the right kind of balance. So could you elaborate a bit more when it says when you say moderation?
Yeah. So coming from a different background, right? So I this was not that I was always into. So if you coming from either my students' perspective or even mine, if you in a different environment, which is what right now we're all used to seeing, in the Western world, if you start seeing people who are very much into lifting iron, if you would call it, excuse me, being in the gym, doing something physical, which is good, right? What I see compared to what they feel is their aggression is fueling their workout. I see a lot of screaming. I see a lot of everybody wants to pick up a piece. That is what I see. And what is that doing to you? Right? People don't see that. It gives you an adrenaline rush. You're right. It does give you some sort of adrenaline rush. But doing that day in, day out changes your physical state of mind. That was not how our ancient warriors or people were. They were not. Nothing was done in aggression. Nothing was done to push you to breaking point. Everything is done to balance and calm yourself down. So when you do Karlakattai, this is a basic thing. The first thing that I give all my students who are there, if you were joined, I think I saw some of them, the first thing that I tell, breathing in and out through your nose only. This is the device that we use to breathe. Not
that is what I would exactly. That is what I was coming to. But with the latest kind of strength training that we've seen even on social media, and people, in a close proximity, we see them blowing through their mouth all the time, and that I'm sure must be doing something to the chemicals rushing into their body, as against when you're breathing through your nose.
Yes.
So
if it was so easy, why have this extra feature in your body just to smell things? We can have something else. So anyway, so we do. There is a lot of focus on controlled breathing. There's a lot of focus on control. Control your movements, right? It's not just about swinging your hands without knowing. You need to know where to control. You need to know how to sync your inhale and exhale. And when you start doing that in a controlled manner, day in, day out, so we don't do it just for 10 counts and then sit down, play on the phone, and go back in. That's not what we do. So there's always a continuity. So, there is always something that you do in a continuous form for a good number of repetitions. So they're all repetition based. So if you are doing it for 108 times, and I don't want to go too much into detail of why 108, but anybody can Google it. I have written some posts about why 108 as well. But for us, in our term, 108 is a number that marks the change, your next change of state of mind, or next change of state of body when you do something for 108 times. So that's why sometimes you do Surya Namaskaram for 108 times. So that it marks the change of state. So even if you are going through some sort of, you're feeling sad or depressed or angry, when you do something, so this is again personal experience, you do something, by the time it's 108, when you finish something, because of the amount of blocking off you do when you have to concentrate, it's movement meditation is what I call it, right? So it's movement. So by the time you finish it, that's gone. What you finish your 108 counts, and what you all the emotions that you had before is brought back into balance. And this is what people need now, right? And this is what it was devised for. And we're going back. So we're going back in history. People understood this. So our ancestors were not, long before the rest of the world was still cave dwelling and hunter gatherers. People in this great country were setting up universities, teaching the rest of the world what to do. Right? We have to understand that. We have to realize that, because there is a great, great wealth of knowledge that has been passed down through a big lineage, through a lot of people have struggled a lot, talking about 75th Independence Day. It's not just struggle of independence, right? People have struggled to keep all of these things alive for us to benefit these things. So people came to block out all of this because they realized what we're doing is way too powerful for them to even understand. They tried to block these things, right? They were gurus, they were asans, they were doing it in secrecy. They were doing it in the fear of getting killed if they were found out. But they've given us this treasure. And this is for us to pass it on to the next generation in the right manner, not by doing things, right? And going on from here, just like to touch on one more topic, which is very relevant to just what we spoke, lineage, right? So lineage is what we teach, is never through bloodline. Lineage is not bloodline. You cannot say, the son of a warrior is always a warrior. Wrong. What a warrior teaches to someone could be even a son of a farmer. That person has passed on that lineage to him. If a son of a warrior is a lazy person sitting doing nothing, you cannot give him your spear and say, okay, lead the army. You can't. I'm just giving you a big term. So what I'm saying is you have to learn from the right people. So there is a lot of things behind. So all of this that I spoke is a very minuscule part of what we're learning. So I wouldn't have known this if I would have just seen a video of my guru taking a piece of wood and swinging it around his head on YouTube or Instagram or wherever. And I say, oh, I can do that. I can do it. I can probably just do a movement that looks like it. But the effect of what it has, I will not feel. Right? The analogy I can give you. Yeah.
What I feel is it's a very conscious practice. It's not some random practice similar to yoga or Karlakattai. They're all very, very holistic, not just from a physical movement perspective, but it's very conscious. The movements are controlled, the breath is controlled, the practice is controlled. And like you said, it is aiming towards moderation and not extremities.
Yeah. Yeah. When I say moderation, yes, you don't want to push yourself to breaking point. We never do that. There's no point. That is why when we say Maypadam, when you start with Maypadam, you need to understand your own capability, your own capacity. You need to know what your body is capable of. Everybody's capability and capacity is different. What I can do 108 times, you can do double that. You don't know, right? So you have to find out for yourself what your body is capable of. Then you need to be able to work on that. So it depends on what your end goal is also. If you're training for, say, a martial art event, for example, I have professional boxers with me who train with me. So if they're training for an event, yes, you need to push yourself a little bit, but not to a breaking point, not to aggression point. You need to know, even warriors, you need to know how to control all of this energy that you have, that you generate, and target it in a controlled manner. You need to still keep a level head. And that's what anybody would be able to tell in different. So I used to play rugby, right? I'll give you, and people from outside, when you look at rugby, they think of it as a very aggressive sport because people are banging into each other. But this is people looking from outside. When you play rugby is when you know it's such a mind game. It is such a controlled sport. As much as you would see that aggression, people, tackling each other, it is not. so that is the analogy I can give you, because when you're in there, unless you have a level head, unless you can think, unless you know what you're doing, you cannot progress, you cannot win, you cannot, otherwise you'll just be being aggressive, going all over the place.
You'll get
Moderation.
carried away with the whole thing. Yeah.
Moderation, and that's what life is all about now. You need to have moderation. You can't just run behind money, you can't just run behind wealth, sorry, you can't do anything, any one thing forever. As in, you can't put all your energy in one thing. You need to have a moderation,
Right.
and you have to look after yourself to be able to look after others. That
So
is
that's what there's been a lot of trend, when the marathons came into picture, the entire world was running the marathons. When diets came into picture, everybody went vegan, everybody went on a keto diet, everybody went into intermittent fasting. So it's more like there needs to be some conscious decision or thinking that needs to go behind why one is doing what one is doing, and how is it going to benefit everyone at the entire holistic level or complete level. Like you said, moderation, balance, it's going to give you some direction rather than just like headless chicken running all over the place.
Yeah, you're
And
right. So talking of headless chicken and what people follow blindly, right? So it goes on to the next topic that I want to touch, if that's okay with you, if you want to. So this is something that has always been something that I want people to understand and know for yourself. So I'll start with an analogy, okay? Easy to understand, so we can get to that topic. So bear this in mind as we move on. So knowledge, what knowledge is? Knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put tomato in a fruit salad. Okay? Now keep this in mind. I'll put this in context. So this journey that we have, so the knowledge that we just spoke about, people think, okay, I'm going to run. Everybody is running. Knowledge, okay, if you run, I just have to buy a good pair of shoes and run. I see people, running. I'll do running, or I'll get onto keto. I'll get onto every fad that's there. That's your basic knowledge that you're gathering from everywhere, right? Only when you get to a stage where you think, this thing, my knees are no longer usable because of joint pain running on road. My hips are no longer, that is the wisdom. This process of converting your knowledge up onto wisdom is your spiritual journey. Everybody has different spiritual journeys, right? So from our perspective, just talking about Karlakattai, so knowledge for me is knowing, I know I can do all of these things, or if I do this, it's going to help me. Any sort of practice, say less. If I move my hands, it's going to help me. But wisdom is knowing at the end point, gathering all of this, is knowing that, okay, so doing all of this has helped me. Feeling the change is wisdom, and knowing. So you'll be able to transmit that to somebody else and move that forward. This path, this spiritual journey, right? Always, you need to have some sort of spiritual guide. And this spiritual thing I'm talking about is nowhere linked to religion. Please don't get that wrong. People have that wrong notion. Spirituality is linked to religion. It is not. Every being that is born on this planet is a spiritual being. Babies are the best example. Spirituality means seeking, right? Your spiritual journey is for you to seek. So babies are the most spiritual beings on the planet, right? They're born seeking. They learn everything. At some point, they get cut off and we think we know everything. And that's when your spiritual journey stops. So this is where, the spiritual guide part of it is our guru. In anything, right? So your spiritual journey in Karlakattai, for me, is my guru, because the amount of power that has, right? My guru has learned from 36 different gurus. Each one of them has learned from different gurus. So the knowledge that has been imparted to me is 36 plus 1. Can you imagine the amount of knowledge that he's given through his experience? It's for me to gather all of that, understand it through my journey, and transmit it to my students. So my students are more of an advantage because they have 37 plus 1 that they're learning. This is how our Gurukulam system was. This is how we were brought up. This is how our culture is. This is how our traditions are.
Right.
When you
True.
not learning from just seeing something and saying, I can do that. I'm going to just pick up something and start doing it. I'm just going to somebody just doing something nice on social media. I'm just going to do it. You need to know all of this. They've spent a lot of their time and energy and transmitted this to us, and we need to take it further as well.
There's a lot of introspection that has gone behind inventing these processes, discovering these kind of practices. Like I said, it's not a fad. So fad is something which will just go away, in few years. But this is treasure, and it has been coming down from generations and generations, right? From centuries,
That's
this
right.
knowledge has been with us. So anything which has been handed down to us as tradition, as treasure, is even sustainable. It's even holistic. It is even conscious, I feel. So
Yes,
it just stays with you because it was not created on some whim and fancy. It was not created on some social media reading and research. There's a lot of mind introspection that has gone by these sages at their physical level, at their mental level, at their spiritual level, and that's how these practices were invented in the first place.
that's right. Yeah. No, that's true. That's how all of our practices are. And this is one thing that my guru always says, right? He says follow your guru, be respectful, because they would know because the amount of knowledge they've gathered, they know, right? You follow, and the one thing is don't ask too many questions first, right? Try to ask. You could have questions. Keep that in your head. You
True.
you will answer it yourself. The more you do, you will answer it. The more you practice, you will answer those questions yourself. They are the first thing. Sometimes I get people, the first thing they ask, they want to, like, for example, I told you about the process of how we do Karlakattai. We start with May
Yes.
Padam, and I get people starting here and saying, I want to start using a Kushti Karla, which is the biggest Karla, one of the biggest Karlakattais we have. I just want to start swinging it. How? How do you learn to start running before you not even learn how to crawl? You want to do
True.
that because you
Absolutely.
think because right now the problem with people is we think we're superior, and it's
Right.
not to someone else. Okay, forget that superiority complex with someone else is different. But we ourselves think we are superior beings, right? We think, oh
True.
yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I don't need a guru to teach me how to do that. I can do that myself. I can just Google
You know
it.
what?
I can just do it. Right. So that
True.
that
Absolutely.
that itself, in my opinion, that is a mental problem with the society. That is, and they are anyway. We will digress and go that way. But yeah, that is
Actually, that's my next question.
yeah.
How is Karlakattai or the tradition of Karlakattai most relevant in today's times? So you already started with that topic, and people of this generation have a lot of superiority complex. The traditions that I also come from, even my guru, the Kriya Yoga teacher that I learn under, she says, don't ask too many questions, just stay with them, because what your knowledge will speak to you, what your own personal practice will speak to you, your wisdom will speak to you, will eventually make you grow forward. I can only give you information. That's very easy for me to give you. But what goes on inside you, only you will know.
Yeah.
So, how do you think these practices are most relevant in today's times?
Okay. So in terms of relevancy, right? The first thing goes back to the very first point we touched on. We need to be able to look after ourselves to be able to look after anyone else. First things first. So we this body that we have is a gift. We have to be able to safeguard it, and there are methods to safeguard this body. Only when this body is fit and functional and healthy is your mind, your emotional state, all of that will fit in like a good jigsaw puzzle. They'll fit into the blocks. Now, the majority of the problem people are having these days, yeah, like I said before, stress. They have health issues. They have issues, hair fall, right? people who are in their 20s, no disrespect to people, I think, could be, you can call it genetic as well, but why, if you go with college genetic, go 2-3 generations back, why did they have heart failure first? So there's a lot of things, they are related. They are related to your chemical imbalance in your body, right? They are a lot of people who have blood pressure, diabetes, type 2 diabetes. What's the first thing even a doctor would ask you? How's your lifestyle? People are not making good lifestyle choices. People are not making good lifestyle changes. So these practices help them do that, right? By putting this, there are two things. You need to have a good discipline. So any form of training, Karlakattai training, puts you in a good disciplined state of being. You need to be disciplined. While practicing Karlakattai, you can't think about what I need to cook, or you can't just sit down on your phone for 10 minutes and then start looking at social media. You can't do that. When you're in that zone, and this is where I said before, this is meditative movement. So you are clearing up your mind. You are clearing up whatever is going. You are working. Everything in your body is getting charged up for you to start getting ready, for you to face anything. Even if it is just sitting for 8 hours in front of the computer, your body is set to be able to do that.
True.
Even if you are hard laborer trying to do something, your body, your mind is set to do that, because at the end of the day, everything else that you do is your job, right? Means of earning money and income for you to be able to enjoy your life well. You can call it passion, but you still need to be physically fit, emotionally fit, mentally fit to be able to do what you like, right? And these things, the first step into doing all of that is to keep yourself in a good state, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And that's what Karlakattai practice does. And we do call it warrior practice because warrior does not mean a person who just goes to war. Warrior is a person who knows how to battle things within, how to fight his own demons. These are warriors. These are Kshatriyas. These are the people. So again, I've got a lot of backlash from some of the videos and other things that I have mentioned, and even my asana. So people have a very warped understanding of what a Kshatriya is, right? Kshatriya is your warrior. If I use an English term, people are very happy. If I call it a Kshatriya, they go into a crazy mode. Kshatriya, Shakti, right? It's fact of life. I had to battle a lot of these, but Kshatriya, I told you, Shakti means energy, Riya is gather. The person who can gather his energy, keep it in a controlled form, and use his energy, use his strength, use his training to help someone else. That is a Kshatriya. That is a person, not a person who takes a sword and goes to war. He can do, not just for a selfish way, not just so that I can take over his house. I'm going to because I'm strong, I can beat the person up and take over. That's not a Kshatriya. I'm going to help someone. That is how our traditions were. This is a Kshatriya, right? And these are
that is what we require in today's time, So it's very easy to pick up a fight, But what is really, but today we really don't have those war situations as we had in earlier tradition. But now the demons are more within, like you said, So that warriorship needs to come from inside. You need to develop that mental strength to be able to fight your own demons and move forward.
Demons are of any form. Demons are in the form of stress. Demons are in the form of bad habits. Demons are in the form of not having self-control. Demons are in the form of anger. All these demons, how do you fight? So we are, and every single person, even me, as calm as I sit now, I'm fighting my own demons. But
true.
I know I have a method to fight my demons. Some people don't. This is what there are methods out there to help you fight demons, not popping a pill, right? That's what people want. A lot of people want the easy way out. So I'll give you an example. One of my friends my mother had spondylitis pain. A lot of my students, I'm giving my mother because closest example, she had pain, shoulder pain and back pain for 20 or 25 years, as far as I can remember, right? Gone through all kinds of therapies, gone through everything, not worked. Join Karlakattai training with me 3 months down the line, it's gone. Plenty of students, and this is just talking about my students who are just 100 in number. talk about my Assam, there are thousands. You talk about if you spread all the different coaches and their students, if you read about their health benefits, it is mind blowing. And this is data gathering for us. So how is this possible? It's not, nobody's doing miracle. Nobody's giving them a pill and say, okay, have this, or nobody's blessing them and say, okay, good. Now a miracle is going to happen. No, they are curing themselves. People don't understand this. Your body is designed to cure yourself. It's just that the
Right.
different methods that you can use to cure yourself, to heal yourself.
What is So, what is important and what I realize of what we're discussing, whatever we choose, it has to be more conscious, I feel.
Yes.
It like we just touched based upon that. Let's not run behind fads, and you need to put some mind into it, whether this training is going to help me physically, it's going to help me mentally. Because today, mental health is one of the biggest issues, that the world is facing. So, and what I also understand of what you're saying is Karlakattai brings in a lot of physical discipline, brings in a lot of physical conditioning that helps you to condition and discipline your mind. So through your body, you're trying to achieve a mental balance as well. And that is what the need of the hour. And that's how I feel it is more relevant in today's time, because the mental health issues were not there a century back. They've just been a very, very recent development.
They might have been
So,
there. So it's just so centuries. So this is the conversation I had with my guru, and this is something that I'd like to share very shortly. They might have been there. Because if there is a mind, if there are chemicals in your body, yes, there are. You will have
okay.
issues. But ages ago, people knew how to tackle them. They did not have these many different outlets for wrong methods of tackling them. These many different avenues of wrong methods of tackling them. When I say wrong methods, right? The first thing somebody thinks of, oh, I have a headache now. Who thinks of, okay, let's sit down and do some bit of breathing or do some bit of movement to clear that, or look at pressure points. The first thing they think, I want to pop a pill.
So yeah, that's a shortcut that people have been looking for. It's
Right?
like instant gratification in everything. Instant
Instant.
noodles, instant headache gone. Everything
Exactly.
is so
So
instant.
and people don't. They move to that very instantly. Somebody comes to me and says, "Okay, I have shoulder and elbow pain." I said, "Okay, join class," and they said, "No, suggest me what massage gun to use." Right? They don't want to do the work themselves, or suggest who somebody else can cure my problem. Send me to a physiotherapist, or send me to somebody else who's going to massage me. I don't want to sit and do any work. I want to sit here. I'll pay someone else to do it. Let them cure me. What kind of, this is wrong, right?
Yeah,
So we need to move.
because what they don't understand is whatever aches and pains that they are responsible for it in the first place, and the action has to come from them. How long are they going to be dependent? That is where I think today's generation really falls back. I mean, no matter how advanced they've got into their lives, but they basically lack a lot of discipline and awareness. Every choice that they're making in their life is so haphazard. It's so driven and motivated by instant gratification. They really don't want to put in the work.
No, it's not
So
so much
yeah,
as
I
the
think
today's generation. No, sorry,
these
go on.
practices no, sorry. So these practices, I feel they bring in a lot of self-responsibility. It brings you a sense of that you got to take charge of yourself, be it a mental illness that you're combating, be it a physical health ailment that you're going through, or even if it's a roadblock in your spiritual journey, you got to take responsibility for your own self.
Yeah, I agree. Now, just adding on to that, obviously there are people who do suffer from serious physical mental illnesses and things. I'm not just saying, yeah, okay, if you are suffering from something really serious, just go, practice Karlakattai. But always it involves some physical activity. These things work miracles in some sort of physical activities. If you're capable, even if you're capable to move your hand, move your fingers, physical activities, you can, because these things change a lot of things in your body. They will they will add on to whatever else you're doing. People with very simple issues, no, don't even look for a medicine. I can't remember the last time I've taken anything modern as a pill, right? To do, because there are ways your body can combat. Your body can
It's
do things to
actually
naturally heal. It's meant to heal, right? We're not something that comes with okay, it's not, we're not a balloon. We don't pop. you pop and we don't pop, we don't just pop and that's it, done. We do heal. We are designed this way. So,
Right.
and again, talking about generation, right? So what I'm seeing is our generation, my age group. So our generation are the ones who are the worst. Is very unfortunate. It's not the future the future. What we are doing, a lot of people are setting the bad example to the future generation. This is where I'm talking about lineage, right? I have fathers and parents who come to me and saying, okay, I want my child to learn Karlakattai. I want my child to learn something. The first question I ask is, what do you do? Oh, I don't have the time for it. When you don't have the time for it, how? So the first thing I would say is, if you're bringing in students, you also have to be doing something. There's no such thing as time. You have to lead by example.
True.
You have to lead. So the next generation should not even think twice. Doing a workout, doing an exercise should not be a chore. It should be a way of life.
True.
It is their lifestyle. And how they know it? Because my mom and dad used to do it. That's how it is. Why do you know you have to get up and brush your teeth? Because if somebody's told you to do it, it is something. It's healthy for your teeth. Very good. If somebody is so emphasizing so much on teeth that are that small, what about the whole body? Right? You want to brush your teeth 3 times, 4 times a day. What about this body? Do you want to just sit and you don't want to let it wither away, right? You have to look after it with 100 times more of how you look after your teeth, right? So you have to lead by example. That's what I mean. So the future, this generation, our children need to learn from us. So we need to start now. Even if you haven't started, do it. This is what you need to do. This is what we need to change. We need to break that. The generation before us and the generation before that were coming out of this hundreds of years of being pushed down and famine and economic downturn and invasions and British rule, whatever. They came out of that. They focused their whole life, so they were not able to do it. Our generation is extremely privileged, right? But we were strong.
Right.
So it is up to us to take control. We need to take this to the next generation so that it moves on. It should never be something that people Google and say tomorrow, yoga, what is that? Okay, that is what it is. Oh, Ayurveda, that was something. That's alternative medicine. This is sad state of mind, right? People think Ayurveda is alternative medicine, right? Something that was there thousands and thousands of years ago is alternate medicine. Modern medication that came now, somebody invents that tomorrow, that is the real medicine. This is what makes it.
It's a really sad state. Yes, I completely agree. So, moving on to the next question, is there a philosophy that Karlakattai carries? Is
Karlakattai training as a whole, the only philosophy is be disciplined. Discipline and respect, right? That is the philosophy. And every guru or every teacher has their own set of philosophies that they want to impart to their students for them to have some sort of decorum in their life, right? So the discipline gives rise to everything else. So the first thing you do, I'm not talking about just discipline of getting, live your life however you want, go out drinking, smoking, do whatever you want. But when it's time to work out. That's not discipline. That is nothing. Discipline in your life. Follow the right things that help you live a better life. Make good lifestyle choices. Okay, and this is what you impart through your students as a guru, not just somebody who teaches you how to hold a piece of wood and rotate it on top of your head. That is not just what a guru does, that is not just what traditional Karlakattai training and what the gurus teach is all about. It is the complete picture. You need to be able to subtly, but not with a dictatorship, not saying you don't have to do this, right? It is by leading by example. So as a guru, I have to be disciplined for somebody else to tell, for me to tell someone not to do something, right? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do, you know, wrong things against my conscience. The same thing impart. So you see, that's how we even train. And how this comes about is the way we train, right? I'm not just, so every guru, every Karlakattai guru, when we train, we do the whole training session in front of you, right? We do the whole thing. None of us stand and say, okay, do it, play on our phones and say, okay, yeah, that's fine, that's good. Even if you do it online. So for you to be able to do all of that and breathe at the same time and count and look at your students and count the 108 times, you should be able to do it 1,800 times. For you to be able to teach somebody to do it 108 times, right? So that discipline, that guru shishya, guru student relationship is very, very important in any traditional art form, especially for us. The philosophy for us is we would never stand and say, okay, do this, okay, do this, I'll come back in 5 minutes, right? No, I would do it for 216 times for you to be able to do 108 times, because when you look at your guru doing it, there's automatically that energy is the energy you would automatically, your mind will say, oh, okay, fine, my gurus, I have to do it. Okay, I have to. If I say, okay, carry on, guys, I'll come back in a bit, nobody's going to do it. Right? So that discipline, so that from starting from there, everything else, any interaction, anything that we have to impart, it does come as discipline. So I think you can
I think what we're saying is the definition of discipline is not just that you got to do any form of physical movement or spiritual practice on that time only. Of course, that is important, but what all accompanies with it in your mind, in your body, that really defines how disciplined you are. So you can't be just practicing and then going and doing all the wrong sort of things. So that does not really contribute to your discipline in the first place, right?
That's right. Yeah. Get up in the morning, first thing, do your bed. Why? You can't get up and say, okay, I'm going to just do my practice. I've done my practice, I'm done. And you have that. So that all of that comprises little blocks. Little blocks build up this building, this temple. Right? That's us.
Absolutely. So going back to the main topic of our session today, the stillness of the mind. So this will be the last question from our side today. And so we've understood all the aspects of Karlakattai. We also know how it touches, conditions you at a physical level, mental level. And but just for the viewers to join the dots, how does this practice help you in stilling the mind at a scientific level and maybe even more?
Yeah, no, I'll combine both. So combine both the scientific level and the spiritual level. So as a practice, right, let's not label this as a practice. What we do is as I've said before in just a little bit, I touched on this as well. I'll elaborate a little bit. So when we do any session, any sort of Karlakattai session that we do, or you do it for yourself, right? Even when I practice self-practice, there is no level of distraction because you have to concentrate. Okay, I'm not a kind of person who can sit down and meditate. It doesn't work for me. And it might not work for many people. It might not work for many people because it takes a lot of sadhana to do that. It takes a lot of sadhana for somebody to just sit in a place and be content and be in a meditative state. But it takes a lot. I'm not there yet. I can't do it. So what are the methods that you would use to get to that? This one, Karlakattai training. How does Karlakattai training help you get into a meditative? Why is it a meditative form of movement? Because meditation as a definition itself is trying to be able to concentrate on not more than one thing, or concentrate all your energies on one thing or nothing. Nothing is impossible. You need to be somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing, a lot of people you can talk, they say the meditative techniques, you focus on your breathing. And everybody who says, oh yeah, I do meditation for half an hour, partly lie because they can't. You cannot control your mind. Impossible. I'll challenge. You cannot, unless you're in a different state. So how you do it through physical movement is when you're doing this, there's only two concentration, right? Your breathing. You need to concentrate on your breathing, in and out. When you inhale and exhale, right? When you're focusing on the air going in your body, right? That's one thing. Believe me, when you start focusing on just the air going in your body and the movement you do, your mind will automatically start cutting off the things that want to distract.
True.
These are the techniques that you use to get into that meditative state, right? Even in any sort of, you take any sort of yoga, any sort of meditative form, they will teach you breathing techniques first.
True.
Right? And so this meditative movement, so you're doing it along with movements, and how it helps. So these movements, just moving the hands, a certain type of movements activates certain types of flow in your body. I told you about the flow of hormones, flow of energy, air and blood, right? We need to start getting that neural coordination working, all of that, right? We need to get all of that. We need to get that getting in sync, working together, right? So by the time you do this, when you start the practice, you can be distracted. I have been. So I've sometimes practiced when I've been in extreme stress, right? As a human being, you would go through that. And by the time I finish, I walk out of it charged, happy. That's a fact. I walk out of it completely different. My wife will tell me, she'll say, you're stressed, go and work, go and, touch your Karlakattai. That's pretty much what happens. And this process of mental stillness. So what exactly mental stillness is not letting your mind waver too much.
True.
Wander, waver. Too many thoughts, too many different things. You can't do that continuously for the whole 24 hours in a day. Sometimes you can't do that. Some people are not wired to do that. But the more you start having the discipline to keep controlling it for a little period of time. So that 1 hour practice that you do will transcend into 1.5 hours. Not the practice, but the after effect of it. You understand? So you practice for 1 hour and you've done all of this. The after effect of this stays for another half an hour. The more you do, it stays on for longer. So what we're doing stays on for longer. So you keep your body at a good controllable state of mind. So you feel that happy hormones that I told you before, that stays in your body for longer.
Right.
So that's what we meant by getting to mental stillness or approaching mental stillness through physical movement, not just by sitting in place and saying, I want to be calm. It won't do it.
I agree. So, having said this, I also feel when I was just listening to you, physical movement, it does release a lot of chemicals in the body that is responsible to bring down your anxiety, your panics, and your depression, or any other kind of mental instability that you're going through at that point in time. Even depression sometimes, or people who just have the habit of thinking too much, constantly they are on the run, do this. So these practices, they tend to slow down the body, and therefore the mind has to follow. It just can't be that your body is doing a very rhythmic movement, but your mind cannot race. It has to match up to the movement that the body is doing, right? So when you're in the gym running and all, your mind is racing, and therefore you don't tend to achieve that stillness. But when you're doing these kind of very, very conscious breath oriented practice, that's when the mind has to oblige. That's when the mind has to be obedient towards the body, right? So that's how I feel all these practices, be it yoga or Karlakattai, they not only condition the body, but they also condition your mind to slow down.
Yeah. Because if you don't, you injure yourself. If you don't, you injure yourself. So you have to concentrate. You have to.
Correct.
And that's what you don't want. Right? And it has happened to me. I have hit the Karlakattai on my head. It's happened. And the reason for that is because whatever, my mind wavered. This was early stages. Very tough lesson to have learned right from the start, which is good. This is what I tell. Don't hit yourself on the head. And this is something that I would tell in my class. While doing this, don't think, do it. So yeah, to avoid all of that, you need to be in a good control state of mind.
Absolutely. that was such a brilliant session. I'm so honored that we could finally have you over on our platform to uh, explore this beautiful tradition of Karlakattai. And I would urge everyone who's watching us, we've had a good viewership today. Asan,
Karthik.
Karthik Vilvanathan, no, no. Karthik Vilvanathan is conducting classes in UK. His aim is to create awareness about this tradition. So I have always definitely, since the time I've seen your profile, I've been wanting to know about this tradition and join myself. And I would really hope that people take something out of this and understand that any practice has to be holistic, has to be complete. It cannot isolate the body from the mind or the spiritual aspect. So somebody who's willing to put in that work, is willing to walk on this path of conscious living, Karlakattai is definitely one of the forms that they should consider practicing. And because it's just a very complete practice in itself, so that's the beauty of it. Thank you so much for being with us.
Very
And
good. Very
I
much.
hope
Pleasure is mine.
I hope we have many more sessions with you to understand deeper levels of Karlakattai as a tradition.
Sure,
And
sure. Karlakattai
so,
aside, is a lot of philosophy, like you said, behind the whole traditional form of training. Anything, right? Karlakattai is small, but it's the basis of it. We have a lot of things. So what I would urge people to do is explore. I'm not just saying just everybody just pick up Karlakattai. Whatever you're doing, like you just said very well, is make a conscious decision on what you want to follow. And the main thing, which I emphasize, learn from somebody who's qualified. Learn from a guru. Our land is full of it, right? We come from land where every nook and corner you'll have to look. Not everything is easily available online. Not everything is easily available by Paytm, right? Go give Guru Dakshina, fall on touch somebody's feet, get their blessings, do this, right? There is so much of, when you get the blessings from somebody who is enlightened, is a completely different feeling,
it's an
right?
honor. I
It
think
is.
it's very rare. It's not easy to be blessed by someone who's enlightened. I've been on
Yeah,
this path of
yeah.
spirituality and growth for a while now. Let me tell you from my own personal experience also, it's very rare. You got to be really lucky to come across a guru who's enlightened and who chooses to guide you. You may come across, but they may not choose to guide you
Yes,
for reasons unknown to us. So if you um, come across someone like this, it's a blessing in itself.
yes,
So
yeah,
health by itself, I feel it's not just the physical health, but the mental, emotional, and the spiritual aspect. That's completely health, right? So all the viewers who are watching, we would really like to urge you, what are you choosing, health or no health? So if you're choosing health, consciously, because that's where the entire this entire session is all about. Just don't choose because it's there on Instagram or it's there on Facebook. Put in some mind and think about it. Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, well
Thank
said.
you
Yeah,
so
good.
much for being with us,
No,
Asan Karl.
Andre, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. All
Thank
the
you.
best.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Hey friends, if you found the video interesting, make sure you like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also hit the bell icon to get notified every time we upload a new video.